Rogue, Anna Marie D'Encanto, is a character appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics, created by Chris Claremont and Michael Golden. First appeared in Avengers Annual #10, 1981. She is depicted as a mutant, a subspecies of humans born with an X gene that grants superhuman abilities. She is capable of absorbing the life force, attributes, memories, and superpowers of anyone through physical touch. Initially portrayed as a reluctant supervillain, but she soon joins the X-Men as a superhero, appears in 20th Century Fox's X-Men film series, portrayed by Anna Paquin. Her parents, Owen and Priscilla, were married early in their relationship and lived in a back-to-nature hippie commune in Caldecott County, Mississippi. The commune's failed attempt to use Native American mysticism to reach the far banks results in Priscilla's disappearance. Carrie, her aunt, takes over Anna's care, and in her grief at the loss of her sister, is a strict and authoritarian guardian. Anna Marie was a rebellious child and she ran away from home as a young teenager. Rogue grows close to a boy named Cody Robbins. During their flirtation, Cody impulsively kisses her, at which point her latent mutant power to absorb the life energy and psyche of others with skin-to-skin contact emerges. Rogue is traumatized by the experience, and Cody is left in a permanent coma. Hence, Rogue wears body-concealing clothing that eliminates the possibility of accidental skin contact. Not long after, she is approached by Mystique, who seeks her out on the advice of her precognitive partner Destiny. Mystique ultimately takes Rogue in as a daughter. In time, however, Mystique turns Rogue's loneliness, envy, bitterness, and despair into anger, thus recruiting her into the Brotherhood of Mutants. Rogue and Mystique associated briefly with a mutant named Blindspot, whose power to erase the memories of others by touch somehow counteracts Rogue's mutation enough to allow them to make physical contact safely. Blindspot and Rogue became good friends, but when Mystique decides to sever professional ties with Blindspot, Blindspot erased all memory of her from both Mystique and Rogue. When Mystique debuts her Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, Destiny advises her to keep Rogue out of the action, advice which proves important when several members of the new Brotherhood are arrested and imprisoned. Mystique concocts a plan to free the other members of the Brotherhood by having Rogue absorb Ms. Marvel's formidable powers. Rogue attacks Ms. Marvel in San Francisco on her front doorstep as she is returning home from grocery shopping. Due to Ms. Marvel's formidable persona, Rogue's struggle to absorb her powers is prolonged, and the transfer of Ms. Marvel's psyche and powers is permanent. Rogue then throws her off the Golden Gate Bridge. She battles the Avengers using her newly acquired powers. While at the Pentagon, she literally bumps into Carol Danvers, leading into a fight with Storm, Wolverine and Nightcrawler of the X-Men. Though Rogue proves more than a match for them, the four of them escape the Pentagon. Later, with Mystique and Destiny, Rogue attacks Angel and Dazzler, but is overpowered by Dazzler. Rogue, Mystique and Destiny encounter the half-human, half-dire wraith entity called Hybrid, with whom the three form an alliance against the Space Knight, Rom. However, when Rogue seizes an opportunity to use her power on him, she experiences both his loneliness and his nobility. This moment has a profound effect on her and serves as a crucial turning point in her life. The more Rogue uses her mutant power, the more her mind becomes filled with fragmentary psychic echoes of the people she absorbs. Desperate, Rogue turns to Professor Charles Xavier and the X-Men for help. The professor is unable to do a psychic scan of her, but nonetheless decides to not only welcome her into the school, but make her a probationary member of the X-Men. The X-Men threaten to leave the school should Rogue be accepted. However, Xavier is adamant and convinces the X-Men to stay. We need your support by subscribing and liking and sharing the video to continue producing your favorite content. The team meets up with Wolverine in Tokyo, where his betrothed, Mariko Yoshida, greets Rogue with greater warmth than she had received from her own teammates. This kindness later motivates Rogue to take a fatal laser blast to shield Mariko. Feeling indebted to her for saving his fiancée, Wolverine offers to transfer his healing power to her to save her life. She refuses, arguing that it might kill him, but this only serves to gain his trust, and Wolverine touches her to transfer his power anyway. Soon after, she gains the full trust of the rest of the team by using her power on a severely injured Colossus. Willingly leaving herself in the same rigid, melted form as he was to allow Healer to heal his wounds. Overhearing a frantic message from Carol Danvers' former lover Michael Rossi causes the Danvers persona to become active. Under Danvers' control, Rogue invades a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier to rescue Rossi. Her natural persona fights to regain control, rapidly switching back and forth between the two personalities. The X-Men use their new status, recreation the fallen X-Men from scratch with Roma, a prisoner of adversary and guardian of the multiverse, invisible to cameras and all forms of detection equipment, resettled to Australia, to attack anti-mutant threats around the world. The island nation of Genosha's superpowered agents, the Press Gang, capture Rogue and Wolverine, and Wipeout fully cancels their abilities. Rogue is then sexually molested by her guards. She withdraws into her subconscious, and the Carol Danvers persona takes advantage of her distress by assuming control. Sacrificing herself to stop Master Mold, Rogue is pulled through the Siege Perilous, where she is judged by other dimensional forces with the promise of a new life. Rogue is purged of the remaining portions of Carol Danvers's personality, as well as Carol's powers, and teleported back to the X-Men's Outback base. She finds it has been taken over by the Reavers in her absence, and the now physically separate Danvers persona attacks her. Rogue flees, absorbing the powers of the mutant gateway to teleport herself to safety. She ends up in the Savage Land, and spends the ensuing days learning how to survive in the inhospitable land. She is eventually attacked again by Danvers, who is now under the mental enslavement of Shadow King. There is not enough life force between the two to sustain both Rogue and Danvers physically as a result of the separation, and Rogue is unwilling to kill Danvers. With Danvers on the verge of draining Rogue's life completely, Magneto intervenes and kills the Miz. Marvel persona. Rogue and Magneto join forces with Ka-zar and Nick Fury to battle Zaladane, who is trying to conquer the Savage Land. Once Zaladane is defeated and helpless, Magneto kills her, against Rogue and Fury's protests, parting ways with the X-Men's ideals and methods before flying away. Rogue then flies to Muir Island to rejoin the rest of the X-Men, the powers she absorbed from Ms. Marvel now returned. The X-Men later divide into two teams to make better use of their large number of active members. Rogue is assigned to the Blue Team, under the leadership of Cyclops and alongside new X-Man Gambit. Upon his arrival, Gambit flirts with each of the female members of the team. However, Rogue immediately catches his eye, and he makes no secret of his romantic desire for her. As an act of penance, Rogue continues to visit Cody Robbins at a hospice run by a religious order. He is later abducted by assassins sent by Gambit's ex-wife, Belladonna Boudreaux. Cody is used as a pawn in the ensuing fight between Rogue and Kandra and eventually dies. Through a spiritual healer of Belladonna, Taunt Maddie, Rogue is able to make amends with Cody's spirit. He holds no hard feelings against her, knowing what happened was an accident, and urges her to move on. It is eventually revealed that Mystique had two sons, the now deceased anti-mutant politician Graydon Creed and Rogue's longtime teammate, Nightcrawler. Rogue and Nightcrawler consider themselves to be siblings, although the revelation has not particularly altered their friendship. Following the supposed death of Cyclops, the X-Men team undergoes major changes, among them Rogue being made the team's new field commander. Her even temper and years of X-Men service make her an ideal leader, and she continues to lead the team until Storm returns. We need your support by subscribing and liking and sharing the video to continue producing your favorite content. When the Galactic Council transforms Earth into a maximum security penal colony for hundreds of extraterrestrial criminals, Rogue absorbs the attributes of Zecon, a mutant, telepathic Skrull who had joined Kadri K, Xavier's Skrull equivalent to the X-Men. Zecon purposely touches Rogue to activate her mutant abilities, as the two evade bounty hunters. Zecon uses her telepathy to amplify Rogue's capacity to assimilate memories, causing her powers to mutate. Henceforth, Rogue is able to recall previously absorbed powers, but also finds it increasingly difficult to control which powers manifest and when, typically possessing Wolverine's healing factor and claws, Cyclops' optic blasts, and her natural strength. Rogue is part of the Extreme X-Men team led by Storm. The team's first mission is in search of Destiny's diaries, which prophesy future events. During an invasion of Khan, an alien conqueror from another dimension, of the island nation of Madripoor, Rogue requests that Sage use her power of jump-starting abilities to evolve her to a point where she can control all of the various powers that she has ever absorbed. Sage agrees, and Rogue becomes a one-woman army, able to use the powers of anyone she absorbed in the past all at once. During Khan's invasion, Rogue is also confronted by Vargas, who is said to be a new species altogether. Vargas foresees himself being killed by Rogue in Destiny's Diaries and, despite his belief in the prophecies, attempts to stop this occurrence from happening. Thus, in the midst of the invasion battle, Vargas ambushes Rogue as she is trying to rescue Gambit, spearing both Rogue and Gambit with his blade before escaping. Rogue survives due to possessing both Wolverine and the Hulk's powers. Returning to the city shortly after the battle to recover his sword, Vargas is surprised in turn by Rogue dressed in Psylocke's costume, Vargas having killed Psylocke earlier for sport. After a lengthy battle, Rogue fulfills her destiny by seemingly finishing Vargas off with his own weapon. Returning to Gambit, Rogue, with the help of Jean Grey, forces him from near death in the astral plane. Rogue then returns to the X-Men and confronts the monstrous Golgotha. As the result of Golgotha influence, Rogue and Gambit get into a fight about the reality of their relationship with Rogue's uncontrollable powers. He claims if they were always able to touch, Rogue would have been just another one-night stand, that they would have parted much sooner, before leaving. Amplified under the influence of Golgotha, Wolverine's hidden emotions come out, revealing to Rogue he desires her in a romantic, sexual way and, in fact, always had. He and Rogue passionately kiss, until both her power affect him, and Emma Frost telepathically interrupts. While on a trip to Japan to investigate an incriminating photo of her and Sunfire engaged in criminal activities, Rogue and Sunfire learn that Rogue's former friend and Brotherhood teammate, Blindspot, erased their memories of the event. Rogue accidentally and permanently absorbs Sunfire's fire abilities, who lost his legs to Lady Deathstrike and does not want to live. The mutant apocalypse is reawakened. Gambit, seeking redemption from Rogue and his fellow X-Men, volunteers to be transformed into Apocalypse's Horseman Death. Gambit believes he can control whatever Apocalypse will do to him, in hopes of gaining more power to protect Rogue and the X-Men from the villain. However, having been brainwashed, Gambit tries to kill Rogue. After Apocalypse's defeat, Sunfire, who is granted new legs and transformed into the Horseman Famine, and Gambit leaves the X-Men. As Professor Xavier goes into space with Havoc and several other X-Men to pursue the villain Vulcan, Cyclops gives Rogue the authority to form her own team, complementing her inspired improvisation in battle situations. She chooses Iceman, Cannonball, Cable, Sabretooth, Lady Mastermind, Karima Shapandar, Omega Sentinel, and Mystique, a lineup with which Cyclops does not agree. We need your support by subscribing and liking and sharing the video to continue producing your favorite content. Rogue is hospitalized after a battle with Pandemic. Cable, desiring Rogue's help in defeating the Hecatome, forces her awake. Pandemic infects Rogue with a virus, Strain 88, altering her powers by amplifying them into an instantaneous death touch. In defeating Hecatome, Rogue absorbs psyches of 8 billion entities that were stored inside it. The team moves to Rogue's hometown of Caldecott for Rogue to recover. As Cyclops and Emma Frost arrive to help Rogue cope with the immensity of the voices in her mind. Marauders arrive, seeking Destiny's Diaries. As part of the attack, it is revealed that Mystique is working with the Marauders and for Mr. Sinister. Mystique shoots Rogue and takes her back to Mr. Sinister's base, who only keeps Rogue alive because she holds all the information of Destiny's Diaries within her mind. Gambit, who joined the Marauders and Mr. Sinister again, is protective of Rogue, accusing Mystique of being too careless in how she captured her. Standing over Rogue, trying to get her to wake up, Gambit expresses his apologies for what he did before rejoining Sinister. While in her coma-like state, Rogue has dream-like flashes of memories, seeing her relationship with Gambit, and the millions of minds she absorbed, before briefly waking up and recognizing Gambit. The X-Men attacks the Marauders' Antarctic base to rescue Rogue and the mysterious mutant baby who is at the center of Messiah Complex. However, the baby eventually takes precedence and the X-Men do not recover Rogue. Mr. Sinister, now in possession of the mutant baby, relocates the Marauders to Muir Island. While standing by Rogue's bedside, Mystique is visited by Mr. Sinister, who tells her that there will be no cure for Rogue and she will eventually die. Without warning, Mystique ambushes Sinister and shoves his face onto Rogue's. The instant contact seemingly kills Sinister. Mystique, in keeping with the words of Destiny's Diaries, places the baby's face in direct contact with Rogue's, with the understanding that Rogue will awaken from her comatose state. The baby is not affected by Rogue, who awakens shortly after. Realizing what Mystique did at the risk of killing the baby, Rogue says she is tired of people's lives being destroyed by Mystique and grabs Mystique's face barehanded, fully absorbing her powers and consciousness and incapacitating her. However, she immediately regrets her action after realizing that the baby deleted all the consciousnesses she had previously absorbed, along with Strain 88, so that now Mystique is the only one in her head. She says she needs to be alone and tells Gambit not to follow her. Rogue finds Trance as her powers are flaring out of control, creating powerful and uncontrollable bioelectric blasts. Rogue tries to help calm Trance and help her gain control when Ms. Marvel appears to fight against Rogue. After taking out Gambit and Danger, Rogue and Ms. Marvel fight. Rogue is losing until Trance regains control and jumps in to help Rogue. Trance learns that her astral form is able to punch Ms. Marvel when they are both intangible. After Gambit stuns Ms. Marvel, they teleport back to base, where Trance receives medical attention. As Utopia has become a safe haven for mutants, the entire population were on high alert following an attack on the X-Men by Implate, who feeds on mutant bone marrow for sustenance. The X-Men instruct everyone to stay close to each other and report anything out of the ordinary. Bling goes to check out an old amphitheater on her own when Implate captures her to use as a food source. Unable to enter Implate's cross-dimensional base, Rogue absorbs Trance's astral projection ability to enter the dimension and save Bling. In an attempt to finally achieve godhood, Selene, along with her servant Eli Bard, resurrected many of the X-Men's greatest deceased allies and villains under her control. Among the resurrected is Rogue's foster mother, Destiny, who attempts to contact Rogue but instead contacts Blindfold. However, Proteus had possessed Destiny when she came back. When she makes contact, he leaves her to possess the body of Blindfold, so he can trick her into convincing a team of X-Men to go to Muir Island, where he hopes to kill them. Eventually, Rogue and a team of X-Men manage to defeat Proteus. X-Men confronted by Bastion, seeing no alternative, Rogue attacks him, channeling Colossus's strength, further enhancing it with Betsy's telekinesis and using the individual claw sets of Logan and X-23 along with their healing factors. Rogue is able to inflict massive damage to Bastion. However, Bastion is able to repair himself and overpower Rogue with an energy discharge which briefly incapacitates her. Unable to do anything, she watches with horror as Bastion fatally impales Kurt with his arm. Rogue is appointed Hope's protector while on Utopia and allows her to participate in the final battle, where Hope eventually destroys Bastion. Her actions and choices put Hope in danger and ultimately results in Cyclops suspending Rogue from active duty. She, however, remains as Hope's protector and accompanies her to Alaska in search of her real family. We need your support by subscribing and liking and sharing the video to continue producing your favorite content. When the Jean Grey School was surrounded by the She-Hulk, the Moon Knight, and the Falcon to stop other X-Men from joining Cyclops' team, Rogue was forced into action when some students attacked the She-Hulk, declaring her allegiance to Cyclops after Iron Man sent a remote-controlled armor to attack the school. However, Rogue swiftly changed sides again when she witnessed magic, now empowered by 1/5 of the Phoenix Force, imprison Ms. Marvel in a portion of Limbo that she had brought to Earth. Magic briefly banished Rogue to another world for her defiance, but Rogue was able to return home after helping to resolve a conflict between two alien races, having learned that the leaders of both sides were prolonging the war to keep their populations down to a manageable level. Having returned to Earth, Rogue served as the X-Men's representative when appealing to the Avengers for asylum from the increasingly dictatorial Cyclops. In the aftermath, she helped rescue civilians caught in the crossfire, but finally ended her relationship with Magneto. Rogue attends Xavier's funeral alongside Wolverine. Later, after seeing the Scarlet Witch placing flowers on Xavier's grave, Rogue confronts her and orders her to leave, blaming her for his death. The two begin a verbal conflict that results in Rogue punching her in the face, though the Scarlet Witch refuses to fight back. Rogue intends to absorb her powers, but it fails. They are then attacked by 5 mysterious assailants. It is later revealed that the instigator behind the attack on Rogue and the Scarlet Witch was the Red Skull, who has since fused his and Xavier's brains to give him access to his tremendous mental powers. Despite the Skull's attempts to control them, he is eventually defeated by the Avengers Unity team, including Captain America, Thor, Wolverine and Havoc, but manages to escape. Rogue absorbs Wolverine's powers and is told to stop the Scarlet Witch, who is seemingly helping the Apocalypse twins, but in reality, she plans to use her powers to bring as many of Earth's heroes as she possibly can to defeat the twins. Wolverine tells her that no one is to be killed if it can be helped, but upon seeing Wanda, Rogue goes into a berserker rage and murders her. Rogue is then killed by the recently re-resurrected Grim Reaper, who had been revived once again by the Apocalypse Twins to be one of their 4 horsemen of death. Her death was undone when Havoc and the surviving members of the Unity Squad were sent from the future by Kong to stop the twins from destroying Earth, their minds projected back into their past selves so that they could not only warn Rogue what was to come, but then arranged for her to absorb the powers of numerous superheroes to give her the strength to hold the Celestial back. Rogue also finally made peace with Wanda and forgave her. After the crisis was over, Rogue was in the process of being driven mad by all the heroes Rogue had absorbed. The Scarlet Witch cast a spell to return those powers to their owners, although Rogue still retained the powers and the very essence that she absorbed from Wonder Man. We need your support by subscribing and liking and sharing the video to continue producing your favorite content.